Hi, Dr. Chevy. My name is Janet Del Coro, and this is my official submission for the self-introduction video for EDF5481. So I am 41 years old, and I am an ESC program specialist at Hialeah Gardens Elementary for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I've been in education for 5 years. This was a midlife career change for me. I used to previously work in the corporate world doing something completely different, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Essentially, if we start with my history in education, I graduated from high school in 2000 from Hialeah High School, and I always had the intention of becoming an elementary educator. I started at Miami-Dade College, and I eventually transferred to Barry University, but due to some family circumstances, I took a 10-year hiatus from the university. When I was ready to go back, my circumstances had changed. I called my old college advisor, Dr. Perkins, who I'm forever grateful for, and I asked him what the requirements were for my graduation in elementary K through 6. And he essentially told me that I was just missing my internship. So I went back to school in late 2016. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in elementary education in 2017. And I was ready to work when the 2017-2018 school year began. So when I was ready to begin working, I reached out to Miss Rachel Otler, who was at that time the current principal at Hialeah Gardens Elementary. I had heard wonderful things about her school and the way that she ran her school, and previous experience in the corporate world taught me how important it is to have good management in order to be successful and happy in your job. So I reached out to her, and she granted me an interview. And essentially she offered me the only position that she had available, which was an ESC position in a co-teach classroom. I knew nothing about ESC at the time. I was certified only in general education for students in kindergarten through 6th grade. So I went in very wary, but I was excited for the opportunity, and I really, really wanted to work in this school. So when I started, obviously I was way in over my head. I didn't even know how to read an IEP, much less how to provide an accommodation to a student. So it was definitely difficult. It was a gen ed classroom with about 20 students, 30% of which had IEPs for varying exceptionality, from ADHD to a traumatic brain injury, to learning disability, to high-functioning autism. It was difficult for me, but I did what I do best. I started kind of navigating online and Googling, and I joined many forums on Facebook and other teaching communities so that I could learn everything that I needed to learn about providing students with their services and accommodations as per the IEP. I learned to read an IEP, and I learned to develop an IEP. And most importantly, through trial and error, I learned to help and reach these students using varying methods. I attended many different professional development sessions, mostly specifically catered to students with learning disabilities, since that's what the majority of the students in my classroom consisted of, the majority of the ESC students in my classroom consisted of. I felt that I was able to learn several different things in these professional developments to reach my students of varying exceptionalities. And a little bit at a time, I started feeling less and less overwhelmed and more empowered to be able to provide services and an education, a quality education, as much as a novice teacher can provide, to all of my students, especially the ones who had IEPs for varying exceptionalities. So after about a couple of years in the classroom, I was finally starting to feel empowered in my classroom, and I was feeling like I was reaching my students. I had built a great rapport with parents, and you know, I had a good system going, and Miss Otler approached me with an opportunity to fulfill the ESD program specialist position that had recently opened up in the school. I thought she was absolutely insane for considering me at all for the role. You know, I felt confident, or more confident, in what I was doing in the classroom and in teaching my students. But going from that to essentially leading an entire ESC department in a school that has a great reputation with their ESC program, where we service more than 250 ESC students, most of which have autism. I mean, that was a completely different experience and different role, and I thought I didn't want to try something new that I didn't think I could be successful in, at least not yet. And I certainly didn't want to be set up for failure, and I didn't want to disappoint parents and students and colleagues by fulfilling a role without the experience needed to be successful in that role. So I turned Miss Otler down, and she continued approaching me with the same offer, and she asked me to provide her some time by essentially trialing the role. And I did. I decided to go into the office and shadow the current ESC program specialist, and I started learning a little bit at a time what the role entailed. And then I had a decision to make. So Dr. Chebby, in trying to explain why Ms. Otler felt that I might be a good fit for that role, in addition to doing well in the classroom and building a good rapport with my parents and students, and producing good test results from my students, my background in corporate comes from I worked in Miami International Airport, and I traveled to different airport hubs in the nation, where essentially I taught adults how to use a software, and how to program a software to manage their assets within that airport, their baggage handling assets and other assets within their company. So Ms. Otler felt that I was already good in speaking with adults, and I was good in handling paperwork. So she, after speaking to me and after seeing me in action for a couple of years, she felt that I would be good as an ESC program specialist. I wasn't in total agreement, but I did decide, after shadowing that current program specialist at the time, that I did want to take a chance. And you know, the fact that she believed in me was definitely a part of the reason that I decided to take her up on her offer, and I became the school's next ESC program specialist. The experience has been great. I've been in that role for 3 years now, and I learn something new every day. But I think no matter how much experience I may have had previous to being offered the role, I was going to learn something new every day anyway. I mean, laws and policies and rules change. Through research, we find out different ways to reach our ESC students yearly. You know, different methods that work, that don't work, old methods that we need to recycle or just completely discard. So yes, it absolutely has been a learning experience, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and thankfully it has been a rocky but successful role and road thus far. As the ESC program specialist, within my role, essentially, I am the liaison between parents and educators. I facilitate as the LEA IEP meetings. I ensure compliance of all of the the students are receiving all of the services as per their IEP, that they're receiving all of their accommodations. We analyze data as a team to determine if the students need additional evaluations for more services, a revision of their accommodations or their goals. And, you know, we do everything possible to help teachers manage not only the students' IEP and educational goals, but also behavior management. You know, since we have such a big autism program, the most important thing in our program is managing behaviors that are characteristic of students with autism. I love what I do, and my hope in completing this master's program at FIU is to actually learn that knowledge that I never grasped with a formal education. I essentially taught myself what I know in ESE to pass that certification exam, and obviously through practice and through reading online and through speaking with colleagues, I've learned everything that I know, and through trial and error. But I really do lament the fact that I didn't have that opportunity. I never thought that I'd go into ESE. So I really do lament the fact that I never had the opportunity to have a formal education in special ed. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to get one now and to learn things and essentially to collaborate with other colleagues to build on the knowledge that I already have from experience, you know, to build theoretical knowledge and do some research so that I can be an even bigger asset in my current position, and then potentially branch out into either a leadership role or into a curriculum support for the district. So thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Chebby. This video was very nerve-wracking to make. I probably made it way too long because I speak too much, but I appreciate the opportunity, and please feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. Have a good night.